and hear you, so I think we're about ready.
Number of
Just a
people
couple minutes
waiting
here.
in line legitimately, yeah.
Thank you, Dave.
I didn't understand the numbers, though. That, like, we have 16 less licenses this year.
That's not an issue,
No,
Yeah.
I was just curious on the,
yeah.
well, it wouldn't be enough anyway, even if that was it.
Yeah. Yeah, who knows? Well, I got up at 6 this morning, got my car run.
Well, I got out this afternoon, so it was good.
It wasn't too bad. I left at about 9. I wasn't gonna go over to my job site. And I said, nah, I think I'll go over. My guy went skiing today, so I was like, I'll go over there. For your, oh, that tastes like.
They're wondering if you're ready.
Hey, we're ready.
It's a fire hose. Well,
Yeah.
I wish it was a fire hose, but
Yeah.
it's,
Yeah.
yeah. Good evening. I would like to call this February 23rd, 2023 Board of Selectmen meeting to order at 6 p.m. This evening, we have Alan and Sheila joining us virtually. Alan is traveling and Sheila is under the weather, but they are with us this evening.
Acknowledge that.
Yes, can you say present, the two of you?
Present.
Present.
Thank you. Okay. David, I got a little feedback on this mic. Can you... Is that better? Yeah, I got you. That's okay. So this one. All right, thank you. Item number 2, approve the February 9th, 2023 Selectmen meeting minutes.
So moved?
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Alan?
Aye.
Okay. Motion passes 5-0. All right, item number 3, this is the public forum. This is an opportunity for anyone who wishes to address the Board of Selectmen with any issues that are not currently on the agenda. This is your opportunity. Yes, please come to the microphone and state your name. Can you speak into the, well, hold on a second. Technical difficulties.
By the yellow tag, green light will come on.
Thank you. My name is Roxanne Ferrero. My husband's name is John O'Donnell. We own 228 Ocean Ave. I'm here to resolve a short-term rental situation. Last year, we had a license. I think we were the 16th person to get issued the license. We didn't have a problem. We rent with Sotheby's. This year, we reached out several weeks ago to get our application again, and we were advised that it already had passed, the time had already passed to apply for short-term lease. We did speak to April, we spoke to Laura. They did have proof that they sent us 2 emails in November and in December. We never received those emails. I have proof that all of my emails to and from Kennebunkport, I have them documented. We never received them. They also informed us that Phil DeHaze, who is our property manager, was sent these emails. He too never received the emails. With that said, I know it's my responsibility to reach out to the town and get the license. We did do that. My office, Joanne Pacheco, who runs the correspondence between myself and the town, was informed that there was a glitch with the system. This was within the last 3 weeks. I have that documented as well. And also, Scott Dubois, October 21st, was reached out by April to get inspections done on his properties that were short-term lease. We were not on his application. He asked that we be put on. I had that documentation from Scott Dubois as well.
And who is Scott Dubois?
He is the gentleman who rents our property.
From Sotheby's?
From Sotheby's, yes.
And they were unaware of the fact that all of these licenses need to be renewed by the 30th of December the following year?
He did not reach out to me and tell me that. He probably does know. Last year, I have all my correspondence from the town. I'm not saying that he doesn't know. All I am saying is that I did not get the email. I know it's my responsibility, but we did reach out.
I certainly sympathize with your dilemma, but as a body that, in this case, we have to go by our own ordinances, since the licenses have already been issued, we have 29 people on a waiting list to receive licenses next year. So this puts the town in a very difficult position if we were to issue you a license, because by ordinance, the license numbers are fixed every year. And since the licenses have been fixed for this 2023 rental season, it makes it basically impossible for us to take any action, short of some quote-unquote smoking gun that, that there was a break in correspondence. But when you signed, or somebody signed the rental agreement for the 2022 season, it's implied that you understand how the licensing system works. And I'm sure it was, since it was new, I'm sure it was explained to either yourself or whomever signed that agreement.
This was last year.
What I'm saying is, when you received your 2022 license, the license that you had last year,
Right.
There would have been documentation with that, and the expectation then is on you that going forward, you are going to have to meet the qualifications, just like your driver's license. I'm a commercial lobsterman, so I understand, because my license, I have one issued by the federal government and one issued by the state. And I know that they are use it or lose it. If I do not renew either of those within the calendar year that they're issued for, they're gone. I'm never getting them back. And so I always make sure that I do that, and I know. And if they don't send me the appropriate paperwork, I look into it.
So, Mr. Hutchings, I understand what you're saying, and I don't disagree with you.
Okay.
However, my license was expired December 31st, my last year's license. I have a copy of that with me.
And I understand that, and my question is, why didn't you renew it? You know,
When we didn't get communication like we did last year from the town, and I have all my communication that we had last year from the town, which I received.
and
have
it
everything
doesn't
to show
say,
you.
and it doesn't say anywhere on there, I'm sure that it does, that all applications must be received prior to December 30th of the preceding year in order to be eligible for to renew your license.
I don't think it does say that. And when we did reach out to the town on short-term rentals, it basically says, we are currently experiencing a technical glitch with a third platform we utilize for short-term rental registration.
But you said that was 3 weeks ago. That would have already been passed.
When we didn't have any communication from the town.
Well, there were a number of emails that went to your address, and we have those documentation. And there was a letter that was written to your address. So those all went out properly. So I have very little sympathy for somebody who hasn't signed up and followed the ordinance as it's been written. There's nothing that the board can do. So it's an enforcement issue by the code office, not us.
No, Mr. Weston, I understand that. There's also a little bit of a discrepancy. I was told that the correspondence went to April, it's my understanding, told Joanne that all my correspondence went to 228 Ocean Ave. We don't even have a mailbox there. It usually goes to my home address.
So I did confirm with you when I spoke to you that it went to your home address.
I have your home address
That's
right
where the
here.
copy of
That's
the
where it
letter
went.
is.
Laura, we were told that it went to 228.
I won't read it on the air, but
So
I
the-
have
the
your
letter
address
we
right
have-
here in Massachusetts,
And where it went.
and
That's-
right where it went. And this is not the first time, and you know, again, I sympathize with you. I did rental properties for years, on my own, but the town has done its due diligence. And, you know, I mean, we're a municipality, we have 3,500 year-round residents, probably have 10,000 residents in the summer. We cannot go around and hold every person's hand. I mean, promulgation doesn't work that way in the eyes of the law. I mean, we're a country of 333 million people.
No,
and
I
we're all-
understand that.
Yeah, so what you're asking us to do is to violate our own ordinance and make an exception for you. That's what you're asking, if I wish to be clear here.
What I'm asking is that there were certain issues, and I agree with you. I have the copy myself, that 2 emails were sent. I do have that copy. I have printed out every single email that I received. I did not get those 2 emails.
There were more than 2. So,
Only 2, I have the copy right here.
well, so you got them then.
There were 2 emails sent out.
When?
One was on 11/1/22, and the other one was 12/1/22.
So that was in plenty of time for you to register and apply.
But I never got these.
Well, you're just reading them.
They were sent.
Okay, but they were also.
I never received them.
Also, the letter was sent to your address in Weston. Okay, so there's nothing that we can do.
So when Scott asked that I be put on the list, and I was not put on the list,
Scott who?
Scott, the gentleman who does
Oh.
the rental, he was Laura, April reached out to him.
Yeah, but the list
I had
already
the letter too, from Scott.
The list already had a number of people on the list.
This was reaching out regarding an inspection.
Right.
Yeah, so the inspections were for last year's licenses, and they're going through that process. But that was last fall.
No, that was for this year. I just have the letter. She just reached out, he reached out this year for this year's inspections.
He reached out to her.
April, yes. I have the copy. If you'd like to see it.
I'm not sure what the inspection has to do with the
It
application.
has nothing to do with
That
the
we weren't
application.
on the list for short-term rentals.
But you didn't have a license.
You didn't have a license.
This was this was on October 21st. No, I did not have a license October 21st.
All right, since this is the public forum, and I know there are other people who wish to speak tonight, I'm gonna cut it off right here.
Okay.
There is nothing that this board can do, for your grievances. There's no action that we can take legally to rectify this. It sounds like that you are a highly intelligent woman with a lot of resources in the sense that you have a real estate agent that's represents you to rent your property last year. You have an assistant. I'm going to tell it to you straight. Somebody dropped the ball on your end, and it is not up to us to make that better. And we can't. Even if it was, our hands are tied. I know it's not what you want to hear.
No, you know what?
But I
And
believe
I
in
knew
being
this would
honest.
probably be the answer, but I would also like it so maybe we both dropped the ball, because I did not get those emails, and I did not get the letter.
Well, I don't know where your emails go. I have people email me all the time, say, I sent you an email, and I look in my spam folder, and I
Yeah,
look in my trash, and I don't find them. So do I call up Google and say, well, you didn't send it to me, so you owe me money, or you need to make
No, that's, right,
compensation?
that's not the arguments here.
You're welcome to speak, but you gotta go to the microphone. You have to go to the microphone, sir, so the folks at home can hear you.
So my question would be, what about next year?
You can go on the waiting list. There's 29 people on the waiting list for next year. And every year there's turnover, meaning that some people don't renew their licenses, and the number of licenses is set annually. It may be higher next year, maybe lower, but some of those people on that waiting list are gonna get a license. I wouldn't dare speculate how many will, because I don't know how many licenses will be renewed.
But you do need to
But-
please get on soon.
But yes,
because
I would,
it's, you know,
that's,
So how is that done?
you would need to contact the code office. I assume April handles that?
Werner, do you want to talk about that?
Sure. So what happens is that we open up that, that wait list, or that link becomes available in the beginning of October is when that is put back out.
This coming October?
Correct, when that
Okay.
gets put back out on the website.
But the
Yeah.
people who were on the wait list last year that were not issued licenses will be at the top of it. And
That's
then the
correct.
people that ask, that sign up in October
Right.
will be put behind them.
Correct.
Okay,
Yep. And
thank you.
then when that time frame comes, so we do that, we do that in particular so that, that staff doesn't have to constantly monitor, that piece of it. Because we know what we've issued, we know what we've issued so far. And so what'll happen in October is that link will go up. Folks have the opportunity to put their registrations in, at that point in time. And then it goes into that queue, and it goes onto that, onto that particular wait list. It's difficult to say how many of those will get through. What we like to do, or what we did this past year, is that we process the renewals first, because as you recall, we have the difference between the Goose Rock Beach neighborhood, which is not subject to that cap number, so we have to calculate all of those out to determine really what that final number is for the remaining portion of town. So we handle all the renewals first. Then once we've ensured we've got the renewals process, then we see what we have left in terms of either properties that turned over or licenses that didn't get renewed, and then that tells us then what number we have. That in addition to whatever number the board chooses to add. As you recall, this past year you added 7. And so that tells us the number of new licenses that we'll then look at that wait list with.
Great.
So,
Thank you, Warren. Okay.
We can be put on the wait list.
In October. The question was, she asked if she could be put on the wait list, and the answer is yes, in October, when the wait list the link is open, absolutely you can go on there.
And 30 days or more is not considered short-term rental.
That is correct. So if you rent your property for 31 days at a time, you do not need a license. So, thank you.
very much.
Thank you.
for your time. Thank you.
Yeah. Anyone else in the audience wish to speak, David?
Yes, we have David Stratton, and you should be able to speak now.
David, can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me okay?
You're a little faint, but we can hear you.
Okay, let me see if I can turn it up a little bit. Can you hear me now?
It's better.
I
Yep.
hear.
How are you this evening?
I'm good, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. What would you like to speak about?
Yes, I attended the planning board meeting last Wednesday, at which time I brought up the issue of South Main Street between the streets of Grandview Avenue and let's call it Arlington Avenue, Colony Avenue, that intersection area. And as you are aware, there have been 3 pretty significant new developments approved in the last couple of years, being the Colony Hotel, improvement, enhancement, whatever you want to call it, Ivy Lane, and now Woodland Road, which are all adding significant additional traffic to South Main Street. And there has never been any improvements made to South Main Street since any of these developments were approved. South Main Street, as some of you may be aware, is in that area that I mentioned between Grandview and Arlington, is probably about a 30-degree slope going from Grandview down to Arlington. It's a winding road. There are no lines. There are no pedestrian protections such as sidewalks or curbs. Many people, especially in the summertime and the fall months, walk on that road, and they are not able to be seen by people coming down South Main Street. And adding additional traffic, I believe, is just going to make it significantly more dangerous. I have reached out to all of my neighbors that abut the street, so that's 20 different property holders, and to a person, they are concerned about this. As one person said, it's just a matter of time before we have a preventable calamity. In going to the planning board last week, it was my perception and hope that that prior to the final approval of the Woodland Road development, that there would be some sort of study about its impact or additional impact onto South Main Street. I was told by the planning board, by Warner and Nina Perlmutter, but that was not their responsibility, or that was not their prerogative, that it was for me to bring this to the selectmen to have this discussion. This week, I did speak to Lori Smith and Yanina Nicholas about this, and they both thought it was a viable issue that should be brought up to your body. And at least the start of a study or some sort of impact study should be done as to how the additional traffic of the Colony Hotel, the Ivy Lane, which upon completion will have 2 very sizable houses, which will probably bring about at least an additional 6 cars, and this Woodland Road development that was just approved, again, another probable 6 cars at a minimum to this situation.
Well, this is duly noted, and we're in the process right now of working over Wiles District for many of the same reasons that you just mentioned, a road that is much busier, but I'm sure in the future that the town will take this up, at least do an impact study or send somebody down to take a look at it. But, I do appreciate your input, and, we will take this under advisement.
Yeah, one final comment also is that at the very bottom of South Main Street at the intersection of, Colony Road or Arlington Avenue or whatever all those roads keep getting renamed as, there is a stop sign that cannot be seen by people coming down South Main Street. I say coming from the town towards that area. And many, many, many people go right through that stop sign because it's at a curve. It's at a point where people who are unfamiliar with that area would not be looking for it. And again, with all the people walking in that bottom of Arlington Avenue, the Colony Avenue, Spring Valley Road, South Main Street, again, there's an issue there. So an impact study would be really, really appropriate for that section of the road.
If they did, I'm sure they would do the entire length of it, but thank you very much. David, is there anyone else in the audience with their hand up? No. Okay, moving on. Item number 4, public hearing on proposed amendment to Chapter 160-11, unlawful parking of the general ordinance regarding Wharf Lane. Warner, are you speaking to this one, or? I don't see Tracy here tonight.
Sure, I can give a little bit of insight to that piece.
Oh, you go ahead, and then I'm going to open the public hearing.
Sure. So that particular section of ordinance deals with all the areas in town that you have designated as no parking. And so recently, I was engaged in conversation with a resident and who had wanted to have an understanding of the town's position on parking enforcement on Wharf Lane. And that was a little bit confusing to us because, as we know Wharf Lane to be a private road. And sure enough, when we went to and looked at the ordinance, we discovered that Wharf Lane was listed on, within the ordinance as a road that the town would enforce parking on. So this amendment here would really just serve to rectify that situation and take the private road off the list.
Well, we're about to open a public hearing to do just that, Warner. I'd like to open the public hearing on the proposed amendment to Chapter 160-11, unlawful parking in the general ordinance regarding Wharf Lane. Do I have any comments? Is there anybody in the audience? Great. Any comments from the board?
Nope.
This is just an administrative as far as I can see. Okay, well, I'm going to close the public hearing, and we're going to take a vote.
I make a motion that we approve the amendment to Chapter 160-11, unlawful parking.
We strike that from the record?
Correct.
Yes. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, okay. All in favor? Alan?
Aye.
And Sheila, aye. Okay, motion passes. Thank you. Okay, number 5, consider the renewal of the special amusement and liquor license submitted by the Colony Hotel located at 140 Ocean Avenue. And we have, all the appropriate town staff have checked off the appropriate boxes and done their inspections on this and recommend approval.
So moved.
So- Second.
Okay, I have a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Sheila?
Aye.
All right, I hear
Aye.
you guys. So, motion passes. Item 6, consider the renewal of liquor licenses and special amusement permits submitted by Tailor-Made Hospitality, DBA Hurricane Restaurant, 29 Dock Square. Same situation. Everybody's looked at it and staff recommends approval. I have a
So
motion.
moved.
Okay,
Second.
all right, I have a first and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, motion passes. Okay, number 7, presentation by Megan McDermott of Woodland and Curran regarding Pier Road Causeway updates.
Sorry to interrupt, folks. We're having a technical problem with the laptop that does the presentation. I need to reboot it. If we could take.
Absolutely.
Do a dance.
Hi, Megan.
How's everyone doing this evening?
Yes.
Good to have you.
Sing something.
Yeah. You could stomp your feet. That reminds me of elephants. Big animals.
So while he's rebooting, though, we could update the board on what's happened since the last time we saw them.
I don't
Yeah.
think Alan and Sheila can hear you though.
Hopefully Alan and Sheila are still out there in Zoom world.
Yeah.
They're still in Zoom on this laptop, but not connected to the room.
All righty, it's all right. All righty. How far is your drive on a snowy night? Do you come from Portland, or what's,
I come from Gorham,
even
Oh, even worse.
further up? Wow.
so wasn't bad. Roads weren't bad at all.
Yeah,
The
the roads aren't bad.
highway's pretty.
Highway's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, highway's fine. Couple of side roads.
Yeah.
There are spots, but it
Yeah.
wasn't bad. Gave myself plenty of time.
You bet.
So not bad.
Another couple inches tonight.
That's
maybe.
what they say.
Maybe.
Yeah, yeah. A little bit of ice mixed in just for good measure. Seems crazy. It's gonna be single digits tomorrow morning. I don't know quite where the ice is coming.
Wasn't it like 50 earlier this week?
Yes, it was.
It was 58.
Welcome to the new normal.
That
Yeah.
is true.
58. It was no, it was more than that. It was a 100-degree swing from the 40-degree below zero wind chill factor that we had.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
can't count wind chill.
Yeah.
It only counts,
But it
touches
makes
your
that good-
skin.
yeah, but
It makes a good
that good
story.
Story, come on.
Yes.
Hey,
Darn
bragging rights.
Darn
Yeah.
right.
So, it was a big change, big change.
I did see that on the news. Actually, I thought it was air temperature. Someplace in Maine was that cold in air temperature.
I guess
They had it
way
on the
north,
six,
way
the
up, I think,
six,
Yeah,
channel
North,
6
yeah.
AM, yeah. So it was literally 100 degrees in air temperature
Yeah.
change. Yikes.
Big deal. Big deal.
Then Sheila, can you hear us once again?
I can,
Yes.
thank,
Yep.
Great.
Excellent. I guess you're up, Megan.
Wonderful.
Lock and load, there it is.
Oh, look, there it is.
There it is.
Perfect.
Look at that.
So, happy to be back here after a couple months. It's been, I believe, since I was last here. And hopefully this is a relatively brief meeting, but it's really just gonna focus on the few things we've been doing to tweak to the design based on the feedback we received back in December, last time we met and went over it. So if we go to the next slide here, the agenda tonight is relatively simple. I'm not gonna do a lot of the background stuff like I've done in the past. But we're gonna look at some of the roadway elevation with respect to some recent events that have happened at the causeway over the last couple months. Then we'll look at the revisions we made to the layout. Gonna focus on the kayak launch, because that was one of the areas we focused a lot on. And then we have some updated renderings that were requested last time we were here that I would love to share with you all. So if we jump right in. This is that roadway elevation table that I talked at great lengths about last time, and I promise I won't do it again. But I do want to show the two new lines that we've added. So that light blue line, about the third one down, that represents the elevation of Pier Road Causeway as it is, the low point, which is elevation about 6.5 NAVD, which is equivalent to, I believe,
11.4.
11.4 exactly, tide elevation. So that first green line right below it, that represents the peak high water elevation on January 23rd. So 1 month ago, when the high tide actually crested over the top of the road. It was about 1/10 of a foot above the top of the roadway. Then if you go down 6 lines lower, that second dark green line down, that was 2 months ago on December 23rd when we had that large storm event and the water topped the roadway even greater. That reached about elevation 9 NAVD, which would be approaching elevation 14 tidally. So a tide elevation of 14. And we have some photos here on the next slide just to see. So if we go to the next one, this is January 23rd. This is about an hour after high tide. As you can see, the water's just starting to recede off the road. We have some debris that got left on the road there. And again, this was simply a high tide event. We did not have any storm surge or any wave action during this. The tide got above the low point of
But
the
it was the
road.
wind that drove that. That's where the tide came. I mean, you're right. It was in an astronomical high tide. To be, I'm not disagreeing with you, but I want to be clear about this. That you had 3 factors that will probably happen again. But you had a southeast wind direction. you had wind gusts, sustained winds over 50 miles an hour, and you had an astronomical high tide. So that's what forced all that water in. So
There
it was a
surge.
surge.
It was a little bit
It
of
was a surge.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But I think it was almost
Yeah.
2 foot of surge, if you look
But-
at the numbers.
I would not argue with you like I did the last time to say it won't happen again,
Yeah.
because I'm getting older and somewhat
Because we'll go to
wiser.
the next slide,
Yeah.
and you'll see what happened just a month, almost
Well,
exactly a
that's the
month
one I'm
before
talking
that.
about. That's the one that was driven by the southeast wind.
Right, the one before that was not the southeast
was-
wind.
yeah,
That was
that
just a
was-
regular
that was
event,
just
no
the one
storm
hour.
event.
Okay.
A
Yeah,
simple
yeah.
high tide.
Sorry, Your Honor.
I was looking at the wrong slide in my book.
They're both not good.
So
No.
this was the one
both
on December 23rd, where it was a very big storm event. We did get a lot of rain. We had really, really big wind gusts that time. And as you can see, the water got well above the top of the road and even over the top of the guardrail. It's hard to see for us sitting in the room, but those who are looking at it at home might be able to see on that left picture. You could see the 3 ties that are on the utility pole there. Those are the ones we had put back in the fall, and you can tell the water is starting to get to that bottom tie, that first tie, which is elevation 9, NAVD, so that's that elevation, tidal elevation 14. Right. So you can see we go there. If we go to the next slide, so this is looking from the main road to Bickford Island. This next slide is looking from Bickford Island off, back to the main road. So you can see the view there. This is a video. I don't know if it clicks, if it will play or not.
About 10 or 15 minutes before high tide, you can see that the water's about the top of the guardrails on the causeway, right close to the bottom of the sign on the phone pole there, and on shore it's reached the pillars of this gate.
And I think you can stop the video there if you want.
We put some WD-40 on these hinges.
We had a normal tide, 11.4 feet, I think it was, this week,
This week,
with no wind, no nothing, and it was flooded over.
that'd be
Lapped over.
similar to the January 23 event. Yeah. And so that one on December 23rd, it was about 4 hours the road was not passable because the water was over the top of the road there. So I share all this to just show you, does it change our design? And it's not changing what we're proposing for the design elevations of the new road. That is the orange line down at the bottom. We are proposing to raise the low point of the road up 4.5 feet. So to go from an elevation of 6.5 up to 11. We're also going to shift that low elevation. And a reminder for everyone, the reason why we're proposing elevation 11 is it's maximizing the resiliency of the road to the greatest extent we can, while trying to minimize the adverse impacts to the properties that we need to tie in next to where this higher road comes in. So that was the fine balance of what we have. And this graph here is just showing that if we were able to bring the road up to that elevation, or I should say, when we do bring the road up to that elevation, we would be able to better withstand those 2 events that we just witnessed in the last 2 months here. So that was just kind of a recap on where we are with elevations. If we go to the next slide, we'll talk about some of the changes that we've made here. So some of the feedback we received and changes we've made to the layout is we did reduce the sidewalk that's on the east side. Previously, we had showed it was 8 feet. Based on the feedback, we did squeeze that down to 5 feet. So 5 feet of concrete plus a 6-inch wide curb. That way we still meet all our ADA requirements there. The other thing, there was a lot of talk about the top of the retaining wall. We had shown a step in it. That was because the road does slope, and so the retaining wall reveal will change as the road slopes. But the feedback is that it would be more aesthetically pleasing to have a consistent top of wall. So we were able to look at that, try to minimize the wall on one side and try to minimize the amount of reveal on the other, but we do have now a consistent slope across the whole top, and I have some future renderings that will show that. And then the last thing that we worked on, and this is probably where we focused the most time, is that kayak launch. And the direction there was, is there a way to get in a back-in kayak launch with this higher elevation? And we were able to work with one by trying to minimize the impacts to the area around it. We were able to get one that had about a 12% slope, which is very reasonable and within the acceptable tolerance for boat launches or vehicles to back in with a trailer. And we were able to do it by trying to minimize the area that it touched. We did reduce the width of the boat launch up where it ties into the road, specifically next to the retaining wall that we're proposing, and that's now down to only about 18 feet wide.
From,
Up there before, it was closer to about 24 feet wide,
24 feet.
right where you tied into the road. So we have
looking
kind of
for-
an
oh, yeah.
18-foot pinch point now.
Read it, yeah. So the blue is existing, right? The
So
blue
yeah,
is
if we go to the
existing,
next
the
slide,
green
so
is-
everyone
I couldn't
who's
read
following
the
along.
numbers, so.
yeah, I know.
So we go to the next slide here. What we've done is we've kind of blown up and zoomed in to the boat launch area. That blue is the existing limits of the gravel that is there today as we speak. If we go to the next slide, here in the green, what we are outlining is what the proposed limits of gravels that we will be touching and regrading as part of the project to tie into the higher roadway elevation. And if we go to one more slide here, you'll see what we've done is overlaid them. So what we're proposing, it will not go any farther up that vegetated slope or any farther down into the natural resources over what is currently there. We actually are gonna pull the gravel away from the edge of the road a little bit. That's where we're reducing the width of the wall. That's because we need to put riprap in right in front of the wall to tie in that change in elevation, that steeper ramp or boat launch that's coming in and tying into the higher roadway.
I think you just answered my question, but I still don't understand it. So why is it narrower at the road?
So one, it's narrower at the road because the wall has to extend order to support the higher grades. So we have to pinch that down. We didn't want to push it into the gravel area.
That's why. I had the same question.
Well, it's missing, but that
No,
because,
Because this is moved.
they're building that wall on top and it's gonna push into that.
oh, so the wall's going to extend further than
Yeah.
it shows on this diagram.
Well, it
No, it
shows there, you
shows.
just can't see it.
It's
'cause of
hard
the
to
blue.
see because of the blue.
Blue.
Yeah.
It shows.
The wall will extend into what is
Right there,
currently
John.
gravel right
Oh,
now.
Yeah, that's why. If you look at the next one, it shows better.
Yeah. See this one, John? Here.
Yeah, I got that, but that's the same one that, that's just what this was. Oh, I guess it's not on.
No.
All right, okay.
See the one right
I got it.
You got it?
I don't like it, but I got it. It's a little too narrow up there. I wish it could be a little wider, but that's as wide as you can do it, huh?
That's as wide as we can do it by making sure we have a retaining wall that will support, structurally support the higher wall right there.
Details. Okay.
But as you can see, we have been able to stay within the existing footprint, so we're not going to get into, taking away any of that seagrass or things like that, or the vegetated side slope. We're really gonna stay within the existing gravel, we're just gonna make it steeper.
Good.
Okay.
So now we can see what it looks like from one of our renderings. If we go to our next slide here, we've got this existing photo that I've shown 5 or 6 times since I've been here. And if we go to the next slide, this is what it's going to look like. So as you can see, we have the single height, single level across the top of the wall. We've given you more rocks. Ed, I know you told me, give me rocks, so we've given you some more rocks.
Nice. I
We've
like
tried
it.
to bring them up. And as you can see, we also have our back-end gravel that's brought up to the higher elevation, and we've tried to keep it a little on the narrower side so we're not impacting existing area. We are proposing to keep that boat launch made of the same material, since that's what's there, not changing that look and trying to keep it as natural as possible.
Megan, those little shrubberies, for lack of a better word, at the top right of the, or on the north side of the boat launch, are those proposed to be planted there, or are those there, because they're not there now, right?
Yeah, they are.
There,
They are.
Are they?
They are. They're all there.
Just
They're all there.
Yeah, they didn't modify that.
Yeah.
The
You
line's
think
the
you
same.
know something? You know a place.
we are trying not to go past
Yeah.
that existing
I
gravel
like it.
line, I promise. We're trying to stay within the limits. So when we were here last time, we had some requests from some of the residents on Stonehaven for a few renderings from their angle, so I do have those also to show. I believe the first one is from, oh, sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. This rendering we came up with because we wanted to show you how that December 23rd storm would look with our new road and our higher elevation. And as you can see, when that water got to, I believe, that tidal elevation 14, our road is still high enough that we have some freeboard and vehicles can safely
How you
pass.
could launch a boat on that.
Yeah.
So now we'll go to the renderings from the Stonehaven Drive. This is from one Stonehaven, the existing condition. And if we go next, here is the proposed condition. So existing and proposed. And then the next one is from 2 Stonehaven. This is your existing condition, and this is proposed.
Okay.
And so I promise to keep it short. That is all I have
did
for you
good.
today. So I'm here now, happy to answer any questions you may have.
I think you look
I
great.
like what I see.
It looks good.
Yeah,
Let's move
absolutely.
ahead.
Is there anybody in the audience, David? Have any?
Yes, Robin Phillips has their hand up.
Okay, Robin, you're on.
I'm sorry, I didn't know my hand was up. I was waiting for for another topic. Sorry.
Okay, we'll get back to you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else with their hand up?
I'd like to make a motion that we.
Yeah, it's,
Alan, Ed.
oh yeah,
And Alan,
Sheila
Sheila.
and Alan, what do you guys think?
I
Well,
think it's great.
I'm concerned.
Sheila?
Okay.
Right.
What I would propose to do is because, Sheila,
Oh,
what?
Sheila has a concern?
Yeah, speak up,
Yeah,
Sheila.
My concern is the ease of putting in their kayaks now. It seemed a lot wider before. What's going to happen with the kayaks? And I remember somebody said some more about even small boats, lobsterman boats, or small dinghies going in there. It wouldn't concern me, but it would concern someone who uses that to put their boats in.
I think it will work, Sheila, in that configuration. You know, it's not ideal, but given all, you know, when you change one thing, you end up changing often 2 or 3 other things or more, and I think it's a pretty good balance.
And Ed, I would like to just add that we did do what we call a turning template. So we did take a vehicle with a trailer in our design and we backed it in to make sure that it could make the backing maneuver, even though we have pinched that down. So it still should be doable for vehicles with trailers. May need to go a little slower, be cautious, but it physically has the space to allow that to happen.
Okay,
How
thank you.
wide is it, launch?
At the pinch point, the minimum, it's 18 feet wide.
And it does expand.
It does expand as you get down below that pinch point to match existing.
I'd like to make a
you.
motion that we proceed with the design of the causeway.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion. All those in, well, what I would like to say is,
Specifics?
one of the specifics, I would like to amend your motion to say that we proceed with the causeway itself. I think there is still a little bit of legal, we have an easement on the kayak. I think
You're
that
right.
can all be worked out, but yes, I'd like the causeway design itself and.
Yeah,
So-
I agree with Ed.
Okay, so I have a motion to proceed with the causeway design, and believe I had a second. All those in favor?
Yeah.
Aye.
Sheila?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, it's unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Megan.
Not a mess.
Thank you,
Megan,
Megan.
good job.
Okay.
Safe drive home.
Yes. Okay, where are we here? Oh, yes, road limits. Approve restrictions on weight limits on certain roads in accordance with 29 AMRSA, Section 2395, and the Kennebunkport Traffic and Parking Control Ordinance.
And Eric's here.
Eric's here to tell us which roads he wants to post.
Hi, thank you, Board. Yeah, we're proposing to post the roads on the 27th of February, and typically it lasts approximately a month or so. Until April 30th, I apologize. So that's 2 months, actually. We always reserve the right to remove those postings earlier if we feel the frost completely out of the ground and it's not causing any issues. But I think it's a pretty big window right now, but we'll put that out there as being just so we're not having to bother you folks every.
Well, if somebody who snowblowed his backyard today, the ground is not completely frozen, so it's probably time to get on this.
Yeah, what we'll find is probably we'll get into a frozen state again, but what we do is we do monitor the roads and we look for that water to be surfacing on the road. If the ground is frozen, we will allow trucks to go on it, but we do ask the permission be given to them to do so, so that they contact the Public Works Director to get proper permission.
Great. Okay, well, I have the list in front of me. I'm not going to read the whole list.
No.
They're the usual suspects. Do I have a motion?
So
Se-
moved.
So move. Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Sheila, Alan?
Thank you.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. Okay, number 9, presentation of proposed June 2023 ordinance changes. Lori, are you speaking to these? They're the same
Sure.
ones we went through
We
last
had-
month.
We have Tracy on Zoom,
Oh,
and so can we bring Tracy up on the screen to give her piece?
Are there any changes since the last meeting? The only one was the definition of commercial.
Commercial, which is
Right.
there.
Right. So on the Cape Porpoise Pier Committee, we did add the definition for commercial fishermen, since we were adding that as a designation for the committee.
Yep.
I don't know if the board has any comment on that particular definition.
We want to take them one at a time, would that be the idea? 'Cause
Yes.
there may be some comments from the
audience.
audience as well,
Yep.
individually.
All right.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, Tracy.
So the two that I'm going to speak to are the two administrative code revisions. The first one is the definition of the Cape Porpoise Pier Committee commercial fishermen. And then the second one was changing town meeting to Wednesday night after the Tuesday election, and nothing has changed with that since last time. I have spoken to the Administrative Code Committee since our last meeting, and they agree with both of these changes, and they have no issues with them.
Great.
Okay.
And I did work with the harbor master on the definition of commercial fishermen, so that didn't come from me, that came from the harbor master, and he did some research and came up with that language.
That's a standard definition, I've been subjected to over the years.
Right.
Okay. Good for me.
Do we look for hands at this point, or we do it at the end?
We'll just do it, we'll
Yeah.
take them all as one.
Yep.
We've seen these before, I don't think
Yep.
there's any issue unless somebody
Yep.
brings something to us, to our attention.
Okay.
Tracy, you talking about the town meeting?
She did.
Yes, that hasn't changed since you saw
Okay.
the revision last
Okay.
month. We're just bringing them all again, so
right.
that stayed the same as last time.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And just so you know, before I go, the next step is to send all of these to the town attorney and hopefully get their comments back before the meeting on March 9th.
Excellent.
Excellent.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Warner, you're up.
All right, good evening again.
Again.
So I'm here to speak to you all about some of the proposed land use ordinance amendments. I'll start with the first one, and this is the LUO amendments regarding accessory dwelling units. As we've talked before, a large portion of this is brought on by the recent passage of LD 2003. The state legislature, which requires towns to make certain amendments to their land use ordinance regarding housing and development. And so nothing has changed in this draft since the last time, but some of the highlights, I'll point out. One of the, some of these are clarification items that we've also proposed here, as well as we've now worked with the ADU language for a bit. But one of the things that's important, we designate in here that ADUs are not something that can be independently conveyed. So they're an accessory use with a primary, and so they're not to be condoized or to be sold. A good number of the pages that you have here are really just going through the individual tables for all the, all the zoning districts. We adjusted the minimum square footage size so that it's in alignment with the statute, as opposed to, we had a minimum of 600 square feet. Statute now sets a minimum of 190, but we chose to keep the max square footage size of 800. We also removed the minimum primary dwelling unit size that was 1,625 square feet. We removed that reference. One of the things, and there's an overarching theme within LD 2003, is that there's a particular drive to make sure that any of these housing adjustments or amendments are non-discriminatory in that sense. And so, so anywhere where we saw particular elements that could be construed as that, we proposed to remove those elements. We are able to specify that ADUs need to be occupied as primary residences. That's language that we currently have. But we are proposing to remove some of the documentation requirements there. Things like for an owner needing to provide, a copy of their driver's license, registration, things of that nature. Again, the intent is that these are not to be used as short-term rentals. In fact, we further specify that they're not eligible for those licenses, but really intended for folks to live in these units. And the other, I think, kind of big notable change here is that the statute requires that that municipalities cannot require any additional off-street parking for an ADU. And so we struck the additional parking requirement within our ordinance as well. So those are the big changes for that piece. The next proposed amendment is regarding private road construction. As you all are aware, we have a new fire truck that's been ordered, and so what we did here, I mean, the dimensional requirements really primarily remain the same. We're taking the opportunity to clarify a little bit of process with the planning board. Planning board very often asks for input from the fire chief on private road applications, and so we just added that into the ordinance to codify that, and then added a table of dimensional standards, and then we also reached out to our consulting engineer that we use, Acorn Engineering, and they developed a number of images for us, that will certainly make it easier for folks to bring forward a compliant design. We gave 3 options: a turnaround, a cul-de-sac, a hammerhead, and a Y. And those, we're proposing to add those into the ordinance. I am waiting on so the one that we have here is a 16-foot rendering, 16-foot traveled width. I did reach out and request for a 20-foot. Those are the 2 dimensions that we deal with the most: 16-foot traveled width, 20 feet traveled width. And once I receive those images, those will go in there as well.
Okay.
Be a lot easier on a 20, right?
Yep.
Cool.
And next one, and this is one I think you all may have had some questions on, and that is amendments to regarding the description of resource protection. So I put together a couple of notes. I'd like to pass them out to you all just so you have them and you can follow along.
Thanks.
Thank you, Warren.
Sheila, did you get yours?
No, but maybe Dave will put it up on the screen.
Is there a digital copy for you?
No, no, there's not, but we will make one available for folks. So, the big question, that folks have had is why are we looking at changing the RP description? And really the biggest reason for that is right now it's tied to a description of coastal floodplain within our land use ordinance. And so our shoreline zoning regs are, they follow the DEP Chapter 1000 guidelines. And one of the important things to note is that, resource protection is really primarily intended to regulate sensitive, undeveloped areas. This is the zoning designation for, for your salt marshes, for your bird habitats and things of that nature. That's the primary purpose of your resource protection district. And specifically, DEP does tell communities within their guidelines that, that we're not under any obligation to zone developed areas as resource protection. And so why are we doing this? We're proposing this because that without this ordinance change, once new floodplain maps come into effect, what you'll see is you will see a large percentage of homes, particularly in the Goose Rocks area, that from a use perspective would become a non-conforming use. So on the next page, what I've provided you with is our two side-by-side images, really just showing the Goose Rocks area, and then the next 2 pages are those same maps by themselves. But I think the big takeaway here is that currently we have about 517 parcels in town, and so I classify those just as ones that have a building value. We have about 517 of those that are affected in some way, shape, or form by this RP designation of floodplain. And what's important to note is that with these new maps, once they go in, if we don't adjust the language, we'll go to 853 developed properties that will be affected in some way, shape, or form by that designation. So there's a pretty significant change there.
What's the significance of being affected by that? What does that mean? What can they not do or what?
So from a zoning perspective, you become a non-conforming use.
You gotta help me understand what's
Sure.
the consequence of becoming a non-conforming?
Non-conforming use, it affects expansions primarily.
So you couldn't build, you couldn't expand.
Expansions, yeah, it's
Nobody's
expansions
gonna tear down
primarily.
the house, it's just that you now are limited in what you can do to the property.
Very much so. Yep, from a zoning perspective.
Got
Tear downs are, replacements are much more heavily regulated from the zoning perspective in terms of timeline. Not that anyone really takes 18 months on a tear down replacement, but that clock starts to tick whenever you have non-conforming uses.
Yep.
And I think the biggest thing is, what we're looking at here is we're really just trying to maintain the status quo for the zoning of properties here. It's not to really take areas out from it. It's really to try to, keep the zoning of these properties, again, primarily in the Goose Rock zone, try to keep them as much the same as they currently are, and avoid, what I think is a bit of an it's an unintended consequence of this language. And so the proposed language you'll see here just states that outside of the dock, square, and riverfront zones, and so we already don't treat coastal floodplain in dock, square, and riverfront as RP. So that language is already in your ordinance. And so what we're proposing to add to that is to also, and this is consistent with DEP Chapter 1000, to exclude parcels which contain upland areas that contain a principal structure and use and are considered developed. So we're really looking to take those areas that, yes, you already have a principal use on the, established, it's on the property, it's existing, and it's those upland areas. And so it's not the, if there's undeveloped salt marsh on the property, that still falls this classification of RP, but we're really talking about the upland areas, the developed areas. So again, I said, the goal here is to maintain a zoning status for developed coastal properties. Without this change, you'll have, about 336 additional properties. We'll have portions of their property rezoned. And as you can see from the map, really the majority of those are in the Goose Rocks beach area. Process-wise for us, without this amendment, what this does is that this shifts a significant amount of work also process-wise to the planning board, because then many projects would be, would now wind up going through a site plan review process. Just said for an example, a garden shed would be subject to a site plan review process that typically, takes at least 2 months. Again, that's not really the intent of what we're trying to accomplish. But it's also important for folks to know that with the advent of the the floodplain maps coming about, these properties will already be subject to a higher standard to begin with. They'll have higher standards that they'll have to comply with regarding construction and reconstruction because of that designation in the floodplain. So, a lot of the performance standards, dealing with flooding and development, they'll now be subject to that.
So this doesn't remove them from the floodplain, it only removes them from the resource protection clause.
That's correct, yes.
Got it.
Yep.
All right.
So no, that's a lot, that's a lot to handle, but, it's something that we've been talking about, for many years as we've been looking at the impacts of the floodplain maps. A little update on that ordinance piece. I do have the updated ordinance that came from the state, so, and I'm just finishing up the local tweaks that we have in there, and so that draft will be presented to you shortly as well.
And that's going to be in the same package of
Correct.
ordinance?
Yep.
Well, thank you, Warner.
Yeah, it's a lot of work.
Thank you. We don't need to, do we have any comments on anything?
Do we have to authorize
Not
Tracy to
tonight.
move on?
I think it would be, we usually look for a nod from the board
Okay.
to say that you're ready to send it to legal review, because we're gonna spend money.
So let's nod.
All right.
So we don't need a vote, we just need a nod, eh?
We're in agreement.
I am nodding.
right?
We're in
Yep.
agreement.
Alan, Sheila, you guys good?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
great, thank
Any-
you.
Any hands, Dave?
Robin, you're up.
Hi there.
Hey, Robin.
How are you?
Good. What can we do for you?
I want to thank you for putting the, changing the town meeting on the ballot, but, this is a question for Werner regarding the ADUs. And did I hear you clearly when you said 800 square foot minimum for an ADU?
No, 800 square feet was the maximum.
Oh, maximum.
Yeah, the
Okay.
minimum square footage per the statute is 190 square feet.
Okay, now, how would a tiny house fit into this scenario?
So tiny houses are a possible option as an ADU. They fall under there's a whole other section of state statute that deals with tiny houses, but provided that they meet the statute requirements and meet these requirements, they are something that could be considered as an ADU. There are some. There's some logistical issues sometimes with tiny homes, and that really deals with inspections. Sometimes, a tiny home comes in and it's really still subject to the building code, and it's still, to some degree, a bit of an unregulated world out there. But, if folks want to construct one and they want to work with us on the code requirements, we're happy to talk about that. And that would fit with this.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yep. Are you good, Robin?
Yes, I am.
All
Thank
right,
you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Robin.
Okay, we will move on. Number 10, I think we have a personnel policy correction to our new personnel policy. Yanina, did you wish to speak to this? Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Yanina Nicholas, Special Projects Manager and HR Administrator. So as you remember, during last meeting, we discussed updates and changes in the personnel policy that took place, and you voted on adopting the personnel policy. So one of the changes that happened in the new personnel policy was vacation accruals. So originally, town employees received vacation after a year of employment. So it was just given to them after the first year, and they were accruing it on the yearly basis. A few years ago, that changed, and we started following, because of the Trio is our software. Our software adopted an application that could actually track vacation accruals on the weekly basis, because that's how we do our payroll. So we adopted that and we started following on the weekly basis. And so our personnel policy used language like longevity, which wasn't very clear. So in the new policy, we changed it to years of service, which makes a lot more sense. But under closer examination, we realized that that was not our practice, and we made changes that we didn't intend to. So I'm asking the board to authorize this new correction, if possible. And you can see in your memo the changes that I've made. So the above table is the new policy, and the lower one is what we are asking for as a correction.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Does this have to have union approval?
So this actually, the new correction does follow union contract.
okay.
And that's why this
okay.
happened. So it mirrors union contract.
Yeah.
As I said, the misunderstanding happened between the language of longevity versus years of service. And when we changed it, we intended to make it more clear, but unintentionally changed years.
Okay, so nobody got shorted.
That's correct.
Okay.
Everybody would stay where they are.
Policy you adopted gave some people more, and that was not our.
Yes.
So this puts everybody
Okay.
back to where it was.
Okay, so I just want to make sure that the union was okay.
Yeah, if we will adopt this correction, nothing will
Okay,
change.
Okay.
Great. Well,
Yeah.
thank you, Yanina.
Yeah, thank you.
Do I have a motion from the board?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Alan, Sheila?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, motion passes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Yanina. Okay, on to some fun stuff here. Accept $75 donation from Robert and Kathy Gordon toward the emergency fuel fund. Have a motion?
So moved.
Gratefully moved.
Second?
Aye. Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Motion passes. Other business, Alan,
None, thank you.
Sheila,
None, thank you.
Mike,
Nothing.
Nope, nope, thanks.
Lori?
No.
Okay, and
Wow.
all I have is to say that I will not be here next Thursday, so if you're looking for me, I'll be in Florida. So, so I move the warrant.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
And now we're going to go into executive session per MRSA 1 subsection 405-6C to consider the acquisition of real estate. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Aye.
We're gonna go to executive session, and I do
So
not,
Sheila and Alan, I'll call you.
yeah, I don't believe any action will be taken this evening.
But we'll
We'll
back
come
to
back
adjourn.
to adjourn. Okay.
I guess we said, just sit here? Oh, you're gonna, okay.
We'll call you.
Yeah, you find out.
There we go. I got
laughing, yeah. Us out of executive session. No action was taken this evening. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Hey,
Hey, thank you.
okay, so I got everything I wanted of this.
There's some paper.